Welcome back to the Better Than Best Academy, where we have inspiring conversations with extraordinary people. We want to give you the tools and the lessons that you need to fulfill your purpose while making a positive impact on the world. Now let's dive into today's episode.
Knowledge is power, and applied knowledge, like when two minds come together and they mastermind, I think, some phenomenal things can really come from that, so I'm really excited to be here and excited to, like I said, to be a part of this, and yeah, let's get into it, bro.
For sure, man. I love that. With that said, who is Altay?
So yeah, Altay, it was born and raised in London, UK. Will be 31 years old tomorrow. 30 years young, should I say, tomorrow.
Happy early
My
birthday.
Yeah, yeah. My background, but born and raised in London. I went to school. Was never that academic, to be honest with you. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was quite young, so that was something that I guess had created a lot of limiting beliefs for me. I created this self-image of, I'm always going to struggle when it comes to learning, and I was always told that I need extra help. So that was really had an effect on my academic, period when I was in school. So I came out of school with no grades. I failed pretty much every exam. Lost my dad from quite a young age when I was, just as I left school. Actually, my dad passed away, had a heart attack. So that was, really tough for me growing up. And I went to college for a few years, ended up having to drop out because I needed to, get a full-time job eventually to support my mother, because my mother also had to go back to full-time work after my dad passed away. So yeah, about 19, got myself out into the work world, didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with my life, to be honest. I remember just taking the first job I could get through random application. I was pretty much just working dead-end jobs for, probably the first, I'd say, 6 to 10 years, just not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, and getting up on a Monday morning, dragging myself to work, and
Yeah.
getting to the weekend and being like, oh, thank God it's the weekend, man. I can go out, I can party, I can, have some time for myself. And I'll be honest with you, Dustin, I was very unhappy where I was at one point. I was depressed. I was probably one of the most negative people that you'd ever meet, and I didn't really like myself. I didn't know who I was, and a lot of that trauma, I guess, come from, me losing my father. And I remember, eventually I got into business with my cousin. My cousin was actually a tailor, and that really interested me. I got in, I saw what my cousin was doing, and I knew I wanted to do something creative, something that would get me into an environment where I could shift my self-image and be around, high quality people, because I never really had anyone around me. And during that period, I learned a lot of skills. I learned a lot about, people, learned about sales and communication. I also learned a little bit about making clothes as well. So that was something I fell in love with, and I was really enjoying doing that. And then eventually I decided, you know what, I'd like to start my own business. I remember I'd been doing a lot of personal development from the year of about 2015. I started getting into books like The Secret, Think and Grow Rich, and I actually read a book. I'm sure you probably heard of it, Dustin. It's Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Classic.
And yeah, and that was a real game changer for me, because it started to, you know, it enabled me to start thinking about why I was doing what I was doing. And I knew that I didn't want to be spending my life working for somebody else. I didn't want to spend my life just going with the flow and not really having anything to show for it, because I was really just struggling, and I never really was able to live the way I wanted to live. Money was always an issue. And I thought, you know what, now it's my time to do something. So I actually went into business for myself in 2018. I took the self-employed route, and, I started working from home, started building a client base. I was doing a lot of cold calling up big law firms and banks, and, catching guys. And it was great. I learned a lot of skills. I built a client base, and I had the freedom of me being my own boss. I could go to work. I could, work from home. Whenever I went to go and see a client, I'd have to go into London. So I'd have to go into an office, and I was actually what's called a visiting tailor. And, I'd have to book appointments. I'd have to go see the client. I'd have to, show them the fabrics. I'd have to, measure them for the suit. And it was great. I loved it. But yeah, it taught me a lot about, people, it taught me a lot about sales and why people say yes, why people say, and I learned a lot of skills a lot along the way, but no matter how hard I worked, Dustin, I was never able to get ahead. and I had to make a certain amount of sales every single month in order for me to, be able to pay my bills and and eat and survive, and for some reason I felt like there was something missing. I didn't know what that was, but I knew that that wasn't going to be the path that was going to get me to where I wanted to be. I remember, following lots of different entrepreneurs online for many years and seeing all these entrepreneurs traveling the world and just making it look so damn easy. And I'm thinking, what do these people know that I don't? Why am I on the wrong side? How am I on the wrong side of money? And, cut a long story short, bro, the pandemic hit in 2020. My business was, completely wiped out. I was no longer in demand. Bearing in mind, I was working with a lot of lawyers, bankers, insurance brokers, real estate agents, all these guys now locked down working from home. They didn't need suits. They were sitting at home home in their pajamas, you know. So I'm calling them up saying, do you need your suit? And I would say, you know what, probably not going to need my suit for a while. We're going to be working from home more permanently now. I'm thinking, well, great. So I was thinking, what do I do now? Do I just wait around and hope that things may go back to normal at some point? Or is this a time for me to, maybe look at how I can reinvent myself, And my goal, Justin, has always been to have freedom, I wanted a lifestyle where I could be anywhere in the world at any time and be able to earn income and be able to spend time doing what I love to do, And I can honestly say I never had anyone around me that had the results that I wanted, that was living the way I wanted to live. And you probably know, we become the sum of the five people we spend most of our time with.
Yeah.
I had all these great ideas of what I wanted to become and the life that I wanted to live, but I didn't know how I was going to execute. So in 2020, I decided it was time that I found myself a mentor. I found myself somebody that could help me, or I could get into an environment where I could be around people that had the results that I wanted. And lo and behold, a complete stranger reached out to me on Facebook, and her name's Desi Lapova, and I saw the kind of lifestyle that Desi was living. I saw that she was, traveling the world, earning millions of dollars and working with some mentors that I'd been studying for many years, the likes of Bob Proctor and John Maxwell. And that really inspired me, And I remember she got me connected with one of her mentors, this guy called Darren Gibson. And this guy, Darren, I just saw only a year older than me. I just thought sort of how far ahead he was, like a multi-millionaire. And I remember I heard this guy speak and I was just like, wow, that's the kind of people I need to be around. And he just said to me, look, Altay, if you do exactly what I tell you to do and you follow me for at least 1 year, he said, watch where you'll be. And I can honestly say, Dustin, I had no idea what I was saying yes to, but I had nothing to lose. I was losing. So, I can honestly say, 2 years on this journey now, I've now built a business which now operates all over the world. Being able to set up multiple income streams. I've been able to build a global network of business partners and associates, and teaching them how to really create their own economy and design their lifestyle, and then put themselves in an environment where they can be a leader. And like I said, be around the right people, because that's really what I was looking for, Dustin. I didn't know exactly how I was going to get there. I wasn't married to the method, but I was married to the mission. I was prepared to do whatever it took for me to create that life for myself, and I can, in a place now where, I travel the world. I work from pretty much anywhere I want. And it's enabled me to, learn a lot about people, and I've just been fascinated on this subject of, why people do what they do, why some people don't do some of the things they should do, and I think that's part of life. I think if we really want to thrive in any business, especially if you're somebody creative, you got to study yourself, you got to study people, you got to study the mind, and I've learned a lot about people in the last 2 years, and I can honestly say I think it's been extremely valuable just being around some incredible minds, because it's not about what you do, but it is about who you do it with.
For sure. Man, so much greatness in that story.
Yeah,
I love this is probably my favorite part of doing these podcasts and even coaching and mentoring people
yeah,
myself is I love I love the stories people have. And one thing that really sticks out to me is you mentioned like earlier on in your life, you had something that ultimately led to some limiting beliefs. And you had
right.
some could have been a limitation, but I feel like oftentimes it's when we put ourselves or we get put in these pressure cooker moments that we find who we are. Like we find our character, we find that we can either rise to the occasion and reinvent ourselves sometimes. Like when you mentioned you were a tailor, and then the pandemic hit and you're like, what? Some people, most people, I'm sure, probably would have been like, well, I guess that's that. Let me go back to working for someone else. But you had that spark inside of you that said, no, I'm going to take my life. I'm going to be the creator of my life. I'm going to create the destiny I want to see. Man, I love that. And I was going to ask you, as you were telling the story, and you made it really important about getting mentors and finding you're the equal part of the 5 people you hang out with. But one thing in particular I want to ask you first is that there's this idea of what was that one point? What was the point that got you? Was it pain? Was it just waking up and thinking, "Oh, I don't want to do this anymore"? What was that defining moment for you that got you out of that limiting space to living this life that you are now? Or maybe it was kind of a culmination of it. But yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, I think it's you kind of get to a point where you look at your results and you feel like it's not working.
Yeah.
I'm doing isn't working. The environment that I'm in and the people I'm associating with isn't serving me. They're good people. I love them, but they're not going to be the people that going to get me to where I want to be. And here's the thing, right? Most people, Dustin, are aware of that. They know that if I hang around the right people, I'm probably going to grow. But most people still spend their time hanging around not the wrong people that aren't gonna get them to where they want to be. And that's why most people never live the way they want, because they're so comfortable in the environment they're in, doing what they're doing. And people don't people want change, but they resist being changed. I was prepared for change. I'd gone through it. I'd read books. I'd studied. I'd taken programs, and no matter how hard I worked, I just couldn't seem to get ahead because I had the wrong habits and behavior patterns. Because it doesn't matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter how many books you've read, or how hard you work at what you do. If you don't have the right paradigm, you don't have the right mindset and behavior patterns, your results aren't going to change. And the best way for somebody to change their self-image and change their belief system is to put themselves in an environment around people that are where they want to be, where you feel self-conscious because you're in an environment around people that are doing more than you. Because if you're the smartest person in the room, if you're the most ambitious person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Hey, I just wanted to pause here and give you the opportunity to either apply to be a guest on this show or give you the opportunity to work with me as your coach. To do that, you will find either of those links in the description that'll say either be a guest on the show or book a free 30-minute Zoom discovery call. Each path will get you headed towards living your most creative and fulfilled life as you learn to live better than best. All right, now back to today's conversation.
And I felt like
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
It's my mind, man. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree 100%. Man, that's so good. And that's kind of the simplest, practicalist first step for those listening at home. That if you are wanting to turn your creativity into not just this hobby, not just something that you want to do, but really make it your reality and to really create the life that you want to see, like Altay said, like you've got to begin today and see what room can you step in that you're no longer the most interesting person in it. Because I know even from my experience in life, man, it is definitely intimidating to step into those rooms, but there's such a shift in your thinking. Because like a little bit of my backstory is I worked for a YouTube ministry and she was mostly like a life coach in a sense, but she kind of helped me see what it is to dream bigger. Because before that, I wasn't really necessarily surrounded by that, but it was by working for this, because I mean, her CEO goes to my church, so it was really a cool God moment that it even happened. But here I was sitting there editing her videos, and she's learned from Bob Proctor, she's learned from John Maxwell, she's gleaned from all the greats, and I'm sitting there, and it's through the daily repetition of hearing that. And granted, I'm editing it, so I'm like hearing it over and over and over again, and it just sparked this spark in me to say, I can go and I can create the life that I want to live. And man, that's so crucial when it comes to this life and what we want to go after is surrounding yourself by those mentors, surrounding yourself by those people that are going to call you higher. What would you say to someone? Say someone's listening, watching to this, and they're fresh in the space of they've got the tension. They're going to the job that they hate. They're doing the things that they don't enjoy doing, but they feel like they have to. But they've got
Mm.
this creativity inside them. They've got this greatness inside of them. What would be your one tip for someone in that space to start going towards this life that they dream of?
Well, firstly, bro, like we all get the same 24 hours in a day,
Yeah.
right? It's what we choose to do with the time that we're not working, which is going to determine where we're going to be tomorrow. So, firstly, you've got to decide, what it is you want. Because here's the problem, right? Most people don't even know what they want. They
Yeah.
they know they want a better life. I knew 2 years ago I wanted more income, I wanted more freedom, and I wanted a better quality of lifestyle. And I knew I wanted to be in a better environment,
Yeah.
But I didn't really know what that looked like. I didn't really have a vision. I never really took the time to take a pen and a notepad and write down exactly what I want, the life that I want to be living, how I want to be spending my days. And that was why I continued to stay stuck because I kept sending the universe vague requests. And if you send the universe vague requests, you keep getting vague results. But when you make up your mind exactly what you want, you set a goal, whatever that may be, you've now got something to focus on. And once you have something to focus on, you'll now start to program yourself to look for opportunities and ideas of how you can get there. Most people don't actually set a real firm, they don't never make a real firm decision that they're going to do something. It's always a kind of like a wish. I wish I could do it. If only I could do that. And they never really take the time to get emotion involved with an idea. So that's why they stay stuck. So, but if once you decide what you want and you think, well, who do I need to become? What things do I need to, what do I need, how do I need to be spending my days for me to become that person and to live that lifestyle, to be able to do that? And then once you do that, you can now start to look for ideas and opportunities and look for the right people that can help you. I think it's important to find somebody that's doing exactly what you want to be doing. Go to them and say to them, look, how can I get to where, how can I achieve how can I achieve X, Y, Z? And do exactly what they tell you to do. And it's not always easy to find
Sure.
people,
Yeah.
mentors, it's really not, but you got to see how you can serve them. Most people are just trying to get. They're like, "Oh, I wish this person could help me." You got to see how you can serve them. Find somebody that's doing exactly what you want and see how you can add value to them in some way, whatever that may be, you
Yeah.
know, and then use the time that you have to be working on something. Create form ideas of what you want to create for yourself. We all get the same 24 hours in a day, whether that's an hour a day that you could be spending, 2 hours in the evening after you finish work. But what most people do, just first thing they come home from work, I'm tired.
Yeah.
This is my resting time. And then, 10 years later, they wonder why they're not where they want to be.
Yeah.
Because you can either make excuses or you can become successful, but you can't do both. You've got to be prepared to sacrifice something temporarily for you to get to where you want to be, It's like Bob Proctor says it very well, you have to be prepared to give up some things of a lower nature to receive things of a higher nature.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so good. Well,
Yeah.
it's the other quote is you've gotta live like no one else so you can live like no one else.
Right.
Man,
Yeah.
we could probably do one-liners all day, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah.
But man, yeah, that's so good. And and I love the aspect you just shared there, is it's not going into this like, "What can I get from this person?" It's going into this, "How can I serve them?" Because
Yeah.
at the root of all that we do, and I know myself, probably you included, is serving the person in front of us, but even more so to the degree of those that we are looking up to, those that we wanna be mentored by. And I think back to great example to, I mean, I worked 4 years for this ministry, for this biblical life coach, and it
Right.
wasn't like, "Oh, how can I learn from you and become you?" It was, "Let me serve you, let me edit your videos, let me edit your audiobooks, let me edit your TV broadcasts." And it was through serving there and being in proximity and getting exposed to that, then I then in turn was like, got this spark in me to go do that for others. Man, that's so good. I love that so much. Man, let's see. There's so many different ways we can take this podcast, and I do appreciate you for taking the time to
Absolutely, man.
hang out and share with people that are listening. But I really want to just kind of pick your brain and ask you what are some things that you want to share with the people that may be listening?
Well, I think when it comes to, doing anything great, I think it's you've got it's not about what you do, but it is who you do it with. You've
Yeah,
got to look at your circle, and you've got to associate with those that are going places.
for sure.
Because there is a lot of good people that aren't going anywhere,
Yeah,
and you've got to look at your circle and you got to think, and I know you probably maybe like your close friends, your family, some of your relatives, your spouse, but you've got to ask yourself, is my environment right now gonna get me to where I want to be?
that's good.
You know, and am I prepared to, you know, let go of some things, let go of some certain. I'm not saying you have to, you know, cut everybody off, but new faces take you to new places. I honestly believe that. And I know for me, Dustin, when I had that realization that my environment wasn't serving me, I knew that it needed to change. And when you find a vision of where you want to be and what you want to create, it's really strange that the people you will attract into your life. I've attracted some phenomenal people into my environment in the last 2 years, and just strange things have happened. Once you find a vision, you'll find the people that will help you get to where you want to be. You know, that's exactly how the universe works. And I believe that, what you're looking for is looking for you, but you have to be looking for it because opportunities out there. And I believe in today's modern world, there's more opportunity than there's ever been, especially for somebody that wants to be, creative, somebody that's in the creative space. You've got social media, you've got, the internet. You can literally build a personal brand for yourself and be there. I mean, you look at some of these people online. There's like these gamers that are like got these YouTube channels and musicians and they're killing it. But you've got to put in the work, you've got to brand yourself, you've got to educate yourself. If you can find a way to add value to others through what you do, through what you love to do, you can find a way to monetize and make a career from it. I say to it, I think I was speaking to a lady the other day. Where was she doing? Remember now? I think she was looking to do some like flowers. Like she was like a florist. And she was like, it's what I love to do. I'm really passionate about it. I said, well, then what you need to do is you need to start creating content, valuable content, using, social media like Facebook, Instagram, and start building a presence for yourself. Start building your network. People need to see what you're doing. You need to get attention and you need to promote yourself. That's another thing where I see a lot of people go wrong, Dustin. Everyone wants to become successful before they've actually built some influence for themselves.
For sure.
And they just want the success right away. They want to just start a business. But if you want to do something significant, you've got to build your influence. You've got to build your network. You've got to get really good at promoting yourself. That's one thing that's changed my life, just me building relationships, having relationships like this, and meeting new people. And when you do put yourself out there, opportunities will find you because that's how you're going to find people that are going to align with your vision. And it is really weird. You'll meet somebody and you'll both be on the same because you're on the same frequency. I believe we attract what we are,
Yeah.
you know, we attract what we're in harmony with. So when you're going out there and you're meeting new people, that's where you can discover opportunities.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I agree 100%. It's all about who you expose yourself to. And
Right.
I was talking similar. I was talking to someone the other day and I was bringing up this idea. I grew up in a small town and I
Uh,
can go back to a high school reunion if I wanted to, and I
yep.
could see some of the people that I went to high school with that never left. And it's that idea, and we coined it like small town mentality. And you get
Yeah.
into that space of thinking small and you think that this is it. But man, if you just go out even 50 miles down the road to the nearest biggest city and be exposed to different cultures, different ethnicities, different all those different things, and you'll be surprised what sparks your interest. and you'll be surprised what just changes the way that you view things. And I think that's so cool. With that said, there was a question I wanted to ask you, and let me flip through my notes. But so obviously, we're talking about exposure. We're talking about getting into those rooms with people that matter. I'm curious to ask you, what have you changed your mind on? Like, was there something you thought you knew, but later on, as you learned and grew wisdom, you had no idea and it flipped the way that you see it?
Yeah, I always believed that if I was gonna be successful, I'd have to do something I was passionate about. And that's what that's probably one of the, like, I know that may sound ridiculous, but, they say, "Follow your passion."
Yeah.
I think you should fall in love with the mission of what you wanna create for yourself, because a lot of the things that are gonna enable you to live a lifestyle that you're passionate about aren't always gonna be things that you're passionate about doing, like, in terms of the work aspect of it, the activity. Like, you fall in love with what you do, but the activity, the work that's gonna get you there isn't always gonna be things that you want to do, if you wanna create a life you never had before. Like, for me, with regards to what I do, the life that I live today, the lifestyle I have, the impact that I've made has made me realize just, you know, what I've needed to do up until now to create this. And a lot of the things I've needed to do haven't been things that I've exactly been excited about doing. And a lot of people I like to say, Dustin, are married to the method, but they're not married to the mission.
Yeah.
And
That's
if
good.
you're not where you want to be right now, you have to do whatever it takes for you to create a life where you have options, where you have freedom, where you have time, you have location freedom and money freedom. But if you're not there yet, I don't think you're really qualified to really say, "Oh, I only want to do what I'm passionate about," because you're not doing what you're passionate about right now. you know? So once you put yourself in a position where you've got money taken care of, you've got time freedom, you've got location freedom, you can now spend your time doing what you love to do because you're set up. You're set up. You got money taken care of. You're in a good place, and you can now live a lifestyle that you're passionate about. Now you can build a brand for yourself. But I think it's using the time that you have to build on something, do the work you need to do, and set yourself up. And when from there on, you can do what you want, and I always thought, "Oh, I can only do what I'm passionate about." I was very
Yeah.
passionate about tailoring, but it wasn't giving me results that I wanted, and I've learned a lot of things along the way, but the mission itself, the impact, that's what you should be thinking about. Who do I want to inspire through
Good.
through what I'm doing? Because I honestly believe, like, successful people do what unsuccessful people won't.
Yeah.
you know, and you will find that, you got to find what you love to do. And I honestly believe that, you're always going to do your best work when you're doing what you love to
Yeah.
do. But just realize, if you want to create an extraordinary life, there are going to be a lot of things that you're not going to want to do as well, that may intimidate you. That may think, "Oh no, I'm not that kind of person." Like, for example, if you want to build a brand for yourself, you want to get really good at sales. I
Yeah.
think everybody should get good at sales. And a lot of people say, "Well, Tom, I'm not a salesperson." Well, we're all salespeople because, if you can't sell, if you can't market yourself and you can't brand yourself and you can't learn to, you know, you know, use persuasion and influence on others, you're never going to get what you want.
Beautiful.
We're all in sales.
Yeah.
We're all in sales, whether you got kids, you're selling your kids on why they should eat their greens. You're selling your partner on why they should make dinner tonight. We're always selling. So I think that's one thing that everybody wants to get good at. Get good at communicating, get good at sales, get good at marketing and branding yourself, and solving problems for others. I think that's really key. You know.
For sure, man. And I agree. I think too, to take it a step further when it comes to having to brand yourself, you must first identify who you truly are. Because I feel like a lot of times, if we're not careful, and it goes back to who we surround ourselves with, if you're surrounding yourself with negative people that are complacent with where they're at, then you're gonna start identifying with the fact, you know what, I'm okay. I'm all right here. Average is okay. But if you really go inside, get internal, and really self-reflect, like, what makes you come alive? And I love that piece you mentioned, "Don't just follow your passion." Man, it reminds me of the book, The Big Leap, and he talks a lot about that, and this idea of we get caught up in that idea where we're chasing our passion when it's so much bigger Like, who can you impact? Man, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Significance is the key, but in
Exactly.
order to do something significant, you first got to become successful first, you know? If you
Yeah,
really want to help a lot of people, you've got to put yourself in a position where you've helped yourself first,
yeah,
and then you can help others. Empty plates can't feed hungry people.
exactly.
You've got to fill your plate up first, make sure you've got enough food in your plate so you're full, and then you can start feeding others.
So good.
That's how it works. You can't pour like I say, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, man. And and that too, like when you're in a, especially when you're in a service-based business like we are, it's really easy for some of those that at home, they want to be in a service-based business and they may be thinking it's so focused outwardly and it's not that being selfish is the means, but it's like you said, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm.
But I'm so curious, what is the big impact that you want to leave?
So for me, I mean, I was raised, in a good environment. I from being a kid, my dad, was, he was doing very well. Multiple businesses, but my dad was a workaholic. He was always working, he was always grinding, and he had a lot of stress. And when he passed away, at 49 years old, had a heart attack out of nowhere, he left my mother and I in a terrible financial situation because he didn't change his will, didn't change his inheritance. So that created a lot of stress, after he passed away. And when I went through that and I knew what kind of person it made me become, it made me so bitter, so angry because of what happened. I made a decision that I would never want my children to go through that. I would never want anybody to go through that. But at the same time, that taught me a great lesson because I went from having everything as a child, to now having nothing and having to rebuild myself. So my biggest mission now is to be able to change the generational, I hate to say generational curse because it's not a very nice thing, but it is what it is, because the way that people are living now is a result of that how they've been raised by their family, their ancestors, and a lot of people kind of look back on their family tree and they kind of think, well, who was my great great grandfather? Who was my great great aunt or whatever? Like, and chances are, if you don't know who they are, chances are they didn't do something significant because you'd know who they were,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I made a decision, Dustin, that I wanted to be the person in this family that made the difference, that changed the next generation.
I love that. And
You know,
I
yeah,
found myself saying something so similar. I was looking through a previous conversation I had, and I think I put it this way. I was like, I want to be the catalyst for change in my whole lineage. And I love that idea. And it's that idea of legacy too. It's like
yeah,
we more so than leaving a legacy, it starts by living a legacy. And it goes back to what you said, like who are we gonna become today that generations down the line of our family are going to be like, I remember what he did, and what he did made the ripple effect for generations to come. That's so,
yeah.
man. I'm with that said, I'm so curious. Who are who are the three most influential people in your life, and how have they impacted you?
To this day, or just in my entire life, and
Entire life to this day. It's very where you want to take it.
yeah, well, obviously, I would say my father. My father is my biggest why, and like, I had a very great relationship with my dad. I was very close to him, and when he passed, it was a huge shock for me. But my dad always said to me, like, whatever you do, I know you're going to do well. And him being an entrepreneur and somebody that was on the verge of building something really big, but his health obviously deteriorated and got the better of him. That's one thing I've learned. No matter how hard you work in life, you got to you got to take care of yourself. You've got to make sure you get the time to actually enjoy your lifestyle and have the freedom and not have the constant stress and worrying about things. And that's my dad. My dad was, he was a worry. He was trying to please everybody. instead of focusing on what he was doing. So that was one thing. I learned a lot of great lessons from my dad, some positive and some negative. But my dad ultimately is my strongest wire. And I would say, the two people in my life today that, have made an impact on my life are my two mentors, Miss Desi Lepova and Mr. Darren Gibson, because they come into my life 2 years ago. And, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, So I give them I can't thank them enough for what they've done, just from, the connections and the network that they've put me into, and being able to have connections with them, and the rooms that they've got me into because of me just listening and following and being loyal to them, because I never had that. I've got a lot of great friends. I've got a lot of people that have always been there for me, and I'll always love them. I'll always be there for them and help them in any way I can. But, it's always the people that have, had an impact on your life that are the people that have seen more in you than you see in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what mentors will do for you. A mentor will identify, your strengths and your weaknesses, and they'll be completely frank with you. They'll tell you, listen, you need to get better. You're good at this, but you need to get better at this. They'll give you constructive criticism, and that's what I've learned to take. And a lot of people can't take that,
Yeah.
Dustin. A lot of people, whenever they choose mentors, they wanna be told what they wanna hear. Most people wanna be mentored their way. They don't wanna be mentored the way the mentor needs to mentor them. But what they don't realize, if they keep doing things their way, they're gonna keep getting their results. So
Yep.
whenever I work with somebody, if they don't do what I tell them to do, I don't work with them, because
Yep.
I don't want their results. They want my results. So again, you've got to protect your energy as well,
For sure.
at the same time. But yeah, I've had some, I would say that, in the last 2 years, just the rooms that I've been in and the conversations I've had with some phenomenal individuals has been extremely valuable. And that's what connections will do for you. One connection can lead you to so many other connections.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, it's the power of association.
Yeah. That's so good. Man, I'll say I really appreciate all your kind words and your wisdom that you brought today. I know there's going to be people listening at home. They're going to be like, man, I really want to connect with him. I want to get maybe some of your resources. I would love for
Yeah.
you to just take a second and share with the people listening where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. Both my pages are linked. It's Altay Bradley Erol. You will find me. But yeah, I'm mostly, like I said, on social media. Obviously, I do, post, like, obviously I do a lot of live videos here and there. But I do Zoom calls as well. I do like, master classes and, opportunity briefings around what I do as well. And, like I said, my vision right now is really to expand and really show people how they can, really take charge of their life, and, show them how they can get into an environment where they can grow. That might be just, like I said, helping them earn more income, helping them get into a more of a positive environment to get more personal and professional development. And that's what I'm a big promoter of. I think there's a lot of personal development out there, but there isn't really much professional development, and professional development is really where you're getting that one-on-one mentorship, being able to work with somebody that can tell you exactly what you need to do. Because that was what I never had for a long time, Dustin. I'd been reading a lot of books. I was getting, studying and getting high off the information, but I didn't know how to apply it. So that was really something that helped me, when I started working with my mentors, just having professional development where I could actually start learning to adopt the habits and behavior patterns, the daily activities to get the results. That's what I'm a big believer in. You can have all these great ideas, but if you don't know how to apply yourself,
Exactly.
it's useless. So yeah, that's really what I'm all about. Shifting your mindset, shifting your self-image. You got to you got to decide what you want, and you've got to start thinking about, who do I need to become?
Yeah.
What kind of person do I need to become? And have fun with it. Get creative. Start. Like I said, start fantasizing. Pick a couple of people that are doing exactly what you want to do, and study them. Study what they do. Study what they read or what they listen to.
For sure.
So
Man, I love that.
yeah,
I only have one last question for you, and then
yeah,
we'll wrap up the podcast, and I'll press stop, and then we
yeah,
can kinda chat a little bit afterwards. But so I want you to picture you're grabbing coffee, if you drink coffee, or you're
yeah,
out and about, and you got such influence. I'm sure people come up to you all the time. and someone comes up to you and they're like, "Altay, man, I love what you're doing. I'm inspired by all that you do. Give me your biggest one piece of advice that would help me get to be like the person that you've became." What would you tell that person?
Well, what do you really want?
That's good.
What do you really want more than anything? Tell me what you want and I can show you how to get it.
Uh, Man,
You
that's
know,
so good. I love it.
that's it. Because if you don't know what you want, I can't help you.
Oh,
You've got to know exactly what you want. And now I've got something to work with. I can show you where, what you need to do, what you need to study, where you want to be investing your time and the kind of people you want to be around. And if you don't know what you want, if you don't have a clear picture of what that is, it's very hard for me to kind of give you the. And here's the thing, right? People looking for the answer, but they don't always ask the right questions.
oh, come on. So good.
You know,
Agree.
so you gotta make sure you're asking the right questions. John Maxwell, wrote a great book. Leaders ask great questions.
Yep.
So
Good.
yeah, you just want to get clear on what you're asking for.
Yeah. It's that
Yeah,
idea of your one question asked away from changing your entire life.
right.
And that's honestly why I even got into what I'm doing. I'm sure you're the same way. I love the idea of asking great questions, and that's so beautiful. And I think that's a great way to end today's show. Is I want to ask you listening at home, what do you want? Period.
Yeah,
Because if you don't know what you want, you're not going to be able to get help from anybody like one of us. And I really want to challenge you to think that, process that. Don't just go on to the next thing. Don't just go get on your phone after you've heard this conversation, watch this conversation. I want you to stop the video and get alone with your thoughts and ask yourself that. What do you want with this life? And then from there you can reach out to somebody like Alte or me, and we would love to help you get to where you want to go. But you've got to first know where you want to go. Man, with that said, Alte, thanks again for being on my show. I
yeah,
appreciate you.
absolutely. And I just want to say, just a big, shout out to you, bro, and just what you're doing. I was, looking through some of your posts the other day and just how your podcast is growing. And I just want to say to anybody that's listening, just take the time to listen to what Dustin is sharing, because he's putting out a lot of great information that's really going to make an impact in your life, and yet there needs to be more people doing what you're doing, Dustin, and I'm so glad to see what what you've created. And I'd be happy to obviously be on this show again soon at some point if you have me, of course. So
Yeah, I'd love to have you back sometime.
yeah, absolutely, man. And then that's what it's all about. Information is so valuable, and more people need to be aware of like I said, what we discussed today, and what you're sharing. And there's so many people out there. We've got tons of creativity. We are creative beings, and we just have to find the right people that can help us and learn to like I said, transfer that energy towards something and create something phenomenal from it.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it. I can't remember who said it, but when you know better, you do better.
Right.
But first, you got to know better, and then you got to be surrounded by the people that'll help you do better. And
Yeah.
ultimately, at the end of the day, you're the one that has to take the action. But
Yeah.
man, that's so good, Altay. Again, thanks for being on the show. I look forward to more conversations with you and
Absolutely.
listening at home. If you're vibing with what Altay's putting down, then definitely look out for his content, follow him, and really get connected with more people like us that are going to help you get to the next level and help you live better than best. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. Let's stay connected. You can either click on the video or click the little subscribe button so we can stay connected. And also be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at coach.redwallace to get more consistent encouragement and motivation to live your better than best life.